Hey everyone, welcome back. Dimma here. Today's video is one that I promised you guys. I did a Q&A a couple of weeks ago. I'm going to have it linked in the description box. Please check it out if you've not seen it. And in that video, someone asked me to give some advice to women in their 20s, and I promised that I was going to do an entire video dedicated to that. I'm here to deliver. In this video, I'm going to share with you guys things that I wish I had known in my 20s, things that I wish that someone has sat me down at a point and said, Dimma, these are the things you need to know. Because if I had known some of these things, it would have made navigating my 20s so much easier. But then experience is a very good teacher, and it has taught me a lot of the things that I'm about to share with you. But I just feel like if I had known I would not have experienced the experience as intensely or as heavily as I had. You're kind of prepared at a level. So I'm excited because this video is a very important video to me. I made a lot of these points because I wrote them down from my heart, guys, from my heart. So let's start. Number one, I wish that someone had told me that one of the first qualities to look out for in a friend, in a potential partner, in a potential business partner, in a lover is kindness. Kindness is such an underrated quality, guys. It's not talked about enough. And I find it frustrating that I just feel like the word does not even come up as much as it should within context, this type of context. Guys, kindness is so important. Ignore smokes and mirrors, right? And look out for one, what people have to say about others, like how they judge other people's situations, right? Forget about the things they're telling you directly, because one thing I think I've learned the older I've gotten is that people most times will tell you what they believe you want to hear. Look closely or take note of what they have to say about others, how they judge other people's situations, right? What they do to other people as well, and what they think about other people as well, because they will share these things sometimes, like it will come up. Sometimes randomly, it's not even like a planned conversation, but look out closely for that. This will give you a very, very good understanding of the type of people or person that they are, okay? It's so important, guys. Kindness is such an important quality when it comes to human beings, okay? Even in business, I'm being very serious. Look out for kind people. It will help you so much. It's so important that people kind of you see how someone is treating another person, or let's say you see how a man is talking about women in general, or what he thinks about women in general. But then again, sometimes they'll talk about women a certain way, but then they're like, but you're different, okay? Even in friendships, okay? I've been friends with people who I have seen talk a certain way about certain people, and I fooled myself into thinking that, oh, it's just them talking about those people, in as much as I did not agree, but oh, they're just talking about those people like that. What I want you to know is that it's just a matter of time until you're at the receiving end of that venom that you think that they've reserved for others. Like people who try to tell you, oh, you're not like the other people, but then you see them treat people who have not necessarily done anything to them like crap. It's very important that because a kind person would not do that. So look out for kindness. It's going to save you a whole lot of trouble. And I said smokes and mirrors initially because I have seen Bible quoting, Instagram posting, church going people who are always in church, who are always praying, and then with everything they say Jesus, it's always they say all these things in between sentences, but then it's not matching up with the way they treat people. It's very important. Look out for kindness, guys. It's such an important quality, okay? Number two, people will always remember how you make them feel. And this kind of ties into number one a little bit. So it's important that you be kind to people. But then again, I will also say here too that you should also take very serious note of how people make you feel. I feel like sometimes, especially maybe when it comes to a relationship with somebody and you're like, oh, you start talking about how they've done this one horrible thing, and then you guys are fighting about it, and it's like you think that your relationship with that person is literally now at the end. But then again, sometimes when you begin to talk about them and you realize that this feeling that has just now exploded has always been present in literally all their interaction with the person that they're complaining about. If you leave someone's presence feeling insecure or jealous, you need to go and tackle that. You need to actually leave their presence and ask yourself why you feel like this. It's not a good feeling. It's not a way to feel about somebody you love or somebody who you want to be friends with or even be in love with, you know. Ask yourself why. If you explore that feeling and you realize that maybe it's just you internalizing things without that person actually making you feel like that, then try as much as possible to now work towards, maybe let's say the person is not necessarily even being mean to you, but then you just feel insecure about the person's accomplishments, or you feel like certain things the person has should be yours. These are very, very negative emotions that will not do you any good in the long run. So try to tackle that and get to the root of it and just make them go away, because it will lead to healthier relationships for you and people in the long run. However, if the person in question is saying things to you, is going out of their way to make you feel like this, don't ignore it. Don't ignore it at all. Sometimes some people see these things and they just stay because, oh, they don't also want to offend or hurt by withdrawing themselves. So let it not be like you offended them. It's also very important that you don't do things out of fear, okay? So explore the way or investigate the way you feel when you finish interacting with certain people. If you feel like there is something you really need to do for your own mental well-being, do it. If there is something you think you need to address it. But then what you don't want to do is to pretend like something is not hurting you or manage or just refuse to leave the situation because of fear. Never ever stay somewhere that does not do you any favors or does not add any value to your life because of fear, or even make decisions because of fear, period. Even in Christianity, it's something that God frowns at. I wish I had known when I was much younger, when I was in my 20s, that I do not need to expend myself explaining my reasons to people, okay? Why I have decided to do something, why I have decided not to do something. In so many ways, I'm an empath. Especially in the past, I was so used to considering people's feelings to the point of like doing myself a disservice. I still largely consider people's feelings, but I've learned to do it in a very healthy way and also establish boundaries as well. There is no need for you, because when I was much younger, I used to do this a lot, like where I would have almost a foolscap sheet of explanation as to why I did not want to do something that I did not want to do, okay? You don't have to explain yourself too much to people, because the truth is that people who love you or actually look at you as a human being will understand regardless. You don't need to launch into that type of explanation with them. There are situations where I feel like you explain or you give reason as to why, right? Especially with people who you love. But with this particular point, I'm referring, or it's just mostly about people who necessarily, one, you don't owe anything, and people who you have kind of established do not wish you well. So this is not really your close circle now. I'm talking of acquaintances or people people you don't really owe anything. No is a complete sentence. Thank you is a complete sentence. Yes is a complete sentence. And the older I've gotten, the more I've also learned from feedback that some people consider you just talking like that. It's not necessarily what it is, but very evil people consider it a form of weakness, because before you know it, they begin to believe that it is something they are owed and something they would never return. So for the people who love you, yeah, you can do that. But for people who you don't really owe anything, people who you don't really know like that, there is no reason why. You should launch into a very detailed explanation. You don't need to expend yourself or feel so guilty over saying no to someone, over saying just yes, and over saying thank you. These are complete sentences, girls and boys. People are going to think what they want to think regardless, okay? There are people that no matter what you say and no matter how you explain things to them, if they believe that they are entitled to something from you, they will pick offense whether or not you explain and explain and explain. Like, it doesn't really add to the conclusions that they've reached or remove anything from the conclusions that they've reached, you know? So yes, no, thank you, enough, okay? For certain situations, very, 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 very enough. Okay. Number 4, I wish that someone had told me when I was much younger to go and read up on narcissism. I wish someone had called me out as the first daughter, as the first child. And I'm saying first daughter, first child because a lot of us are people pleasers in so many ways. We grow up just like that because we grow up with a lot of responsibility, and we strive to make everybody happy, everybody comforted. It's something that we are almost always like on autopilot with, okay? People's emotions, people's people's like satisfaction when it comes to things we've done or not done matters so much to us. I wish that someone had told me when I was much younger to go and read up on narcissists, okay? Because people like us are one of the perfect people for these type of people to prey on and take advantage of. When I was much younger, I've told you guys this before, like I used to really care what people thought. People like I had no business caring what they thought and what they felt. Like it used to really bother me, and I fell into the trap of like just having things to do with horrible people at certain points. So guys, I am being very particular about narcissists because their own is special, and the truth is that with them, like they don't think of anybody beyond themselves. Like it's almost predatory the way they move. It's very important because you can also find yourself in relationships with them, like romantic relationships, and sometimes it's just regular friendships, and sometimes it could also be work. You could be dealing with a narcissist at a place of work. The thing about narcissists in these like 3 scenarios that I've painted is that the symptoms is always not the same. It's very, very easy to miss, to be honest, especially when they're doing it individually. When you look at it as a whole, it is mind-blowing. So please read up on narcissists and learn to detect their nonsense, okay, as early as possible. It will save you a whole lot of stress, I promise. I wish that someone had told me before I turned 20 or in my early 20s that 25 is not old at all. Listen, as far as I'm concerned, at 25, you're still in so many ways a baby. Okay, at 25, I was just a teenager. Just some years before that, as far as I'm concerned, that's how I look at it. And it's crazy because it's one of those weird ages where you're just now learning to understand yourself, even as a woman, most importantly. But then again, you're like, you find that you're jumping, you're trying to, it's like bombs, okay? You're trying to just sidestep all these societal expectations, okay? 25 is very young. It's crazy because a lot of the time we talk about midlife crisis, but a lot of millennials, I think that we can actually give a proper talk, TED talk, on quarter life crisis as well. At the age of 25, it's so easy for you to fall into this mental trap of thinking that there is so much that you should have achieved that you have not achieved. But then again, where you are going by your upbringing also makes complete sense. But then it's crazy because you see logically, just looking at it, that you're where you're kind of supposed to be and there's nothing wrong with it. But then again, it's you trying to also navigate people telling you that you should be looking out for the next thing immediately. It's so crazy because 24 is fine. After 25 immediately starts hitting you. When will you get married? When will you do this? When will you do that? When will you do this? Like, because the other day you were just 23 and all of a sudden you're supposed to be this big woman now who should have accomplished all these things, right? 25, I was very much a child. I've told the story before of how I used to look at my friends who like made like very serious life decisions, especially maybe got married, like in so much fascination because I'm like, wow. And go and also talk to a lot of women who got married early. My very best friend got married very early and they don't stop growing. They're not the same women that they were when they got married at 25, to the point where you see that they might get to points where they have to remind their partners that I'm not the child or I'm not that person from all those years ago. So I'm trying to explain to you that you're not even done growing yet. Okay, at 25. And social media is making this worse now because we're looking at the Kylie Jenners, the billionaires, we're looking at social media, we're looking at all these girls who are like just people who are living a certain type of life. I would say they have money, they have a lot of things. Like guys, they actually make up a small percentage. I'm just trying to let you guys know. They don't in any way represent even half of the women that age, okay? They are people who, I don't like the word anomalies, but they are not the norm, okay? And there's nothing wrong with them, or it's good enough for them that they've achieved those things, but don't beat yourself up because of people that you're looking at. Everybody, I know we hear this all the time, but everybody's story is different. Everybody's pace is different, okay? Number 6 is that there are times and seasons for everything, even in your career. Even for me, let me use myself as an example. Like, you guys know how life was for me, like the past couple of years. And I am just coming out of a season. And please just know that it is normal. It's not like, it is just normal, okay? There's nothing wrong with you when you're going through a difficult patch with life, with work, you know, all of that. It happens to more people than you can ever begin to imagine. Some of the most life-defining things you will ever do will come from lessons you learned when you were at your lowest, like you were in those valleys. Never consider those times and seasons a waste, okay? There are lessons to be learned. There is something that God is trying to teach you. there's something that life is trying to teach you, pay very close attention. But there are times and seasons, and there is nothing fundamentally wrong with you if things are not necessarily going the way you expected or hoped that they would go at a specific period of time. I wish that I had known when I was in my 20s that the quality of your friends way more important than the quantity of friends you have. This is applicable to so many areas in life, but then with friendships, because I think I touched on this a little bit in my video with Jola, but social media has also, like, there's this whole thing about us having a clique, a tribe, a circle, which is very important and it's beautiful, to be honest, when you see it. But then again, if it's not exactly the same for you, there's nothing wrong. Also, I also said in that video, and I'm going to say it here, please do not ignore the ones who you already have because they do not fit into certain aesthetics. But let me tell you something, those people who will pick up the phone whenever you need them, who you can talk about anything with, very important. Gravitate towards and stay with people who accept you as you are. Like, as you've already come, they are happy with the way you are. Not people who are with you or around you because of who they hope you would be for them, okay? People who like you just as you are the people that you need to align with. It's important because if you're in one of those situations where you see that you're with people or with someone who just keeps on talking about who you could be, you know, stuff like that, like, they're not seeing you. It's very important that they're not seeing you, and it's such a big red flag, okay? Such a big red flag. Try as much as possible to stay where you don't have to pretend to be someone else. This is so important. It is draining. Even if, let's say, okay, I want to give it a try it and you see that it is exhausting. It is so draining. So people who love you just as you are, they are key. This one might sound like a cliche, but then it is saving money, because everybody's like, you should know to save money. Yeah, but then I used to find it to be such a, like, tasking, demanding thing to do. And it's not like I was like a frivolous person. I've never been someone who just would spend money recklessly. That's never been me. But then I would consider it an assignment, and I didn't like that. But then what I had to do when it comes to that, or when it came to that, was to change my mindset. So what I started doing now is investing and saving towards specific things. I found that when I am saving towards specific things, it just helps overall, okay? When I know that I am saving money towards a specific goal and not just generally saving money, there's a level of excitement when I know that I am putting money away for a very specific thing. You have to tell yourself that. It will make it so much easier. And right now there are so many fintech apps, there are so many financial applications, even banking apps that allow you to lock money away. So you're able to create stashes or money pots. I think they're called money pots on these apps, where you just kind of lock money away for a period of time. It's so important that you take advantage of these things. So lock money away routinely in those apps, and also invest, okay? It will help you a lot. With that said, number 9 would be to give yourself things. I wish someone had told me when I was much younger to give myself things when I can. I touched on this last year, I think in the Q&A I did last year, and I even referred a conversation I had with a friend where she told me to travel, the money will come back. Till today, I regret going to school in the UK and not traveling to a couple of, even if it was just one country in Europe entered. And at the time I went to school, like, if you had a student visa, it was so easy for you to get a Schengen to go to a lot of my classmates were doing it. Like, every small break we had, they were traveling. I didn't do any of that, and it was because I had locked myself into this mindset of, oh, I can't afford it. And if you actually had been planning, saving, eating takeouts, doing things a certain way, so it's also me referencing the last thing now of saving towards specific things. If I had deprived myself takeouts of certain things over a period of time, for example, right, I would have been able to save enough to travel to those places, but I wasn't thinking about money like this. Money was something I just had to have and then let it not move. If there's a bag, for example, or if there's something you want, give it to yourself now. Like, the feeling of having it now is different from the feeling of having it in your 50s. There's a reason why you want it now, but then don't be irresponsible. Like, give yourself things while you can enjoy it, while you can savor it, while it will give you the feelings that you're craving. I used to think that if I cannot afford something 6 times, I don't have any business wanting it. That's not true. The money will come back, but time and how you use it it's not going to come back. So give yourself things while you can. Last one is that I wish that I had known that it was okay to change my mind. As someone who is growing, as someone who is evolving, this is completely fine, especially when you're presented with new valuable information that you did not know prior. It's okay to change your mind. It means in so many ways that you're a teachable person. It doesn't mean that you've lost something. It doesn't mean that you did not win something. It's just so easy because there's people like, even like when I was much younger, I judged a certain type of way, but the older I've gotten and the more I've come to like new realizations and the more open-minded I have become, you let go of certain things. You change your mind about how you feel towards them. It also, especially for people who have a lot of resentment and, you know, we talk about letting go and not holding grudges, like you also see with time that if you are open to changing your mind and you're teachable and you're open to just considering factors that pertain to that particular situation that you were unaware of before, like it makes you a better person. There's nothing wrong with changing your mind. It doesn't make you look weak. It doesn't mean that you've lost something. It doesn't mean anything bad, okay? So because I feel like sometimes young people get certain places and they get stuck because they feel like changing their mind on something, especially like decisions that they came to without knowing certain things, kind of makes them look off. Not really. Not really. I just wish I did not waste as much time as I did when I was much younger as a result of some of these things. I wish that I did not just like waste valuable time because I was doing or not doing some of these things. So I hope that some of you found this video helpful. Give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you're not yet subscribed. I'll see you in my next one.